everyone, this is Amelia and I'll be giving voice to this tutorial by Didactsoto. In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to simulate cloths in Cinema 4D. As you can see, I've added a simple background to the scene. To do so, I just selected a sky to which I applied a material with a gradient. So let's start the cloth simulation. Ready? Go to the top menu and select the primitive plane. This would be the first step. Make sure the Gorat shading is activated and if not, activate it on the display panel. On the panel on the right, we can see the default number of segments, which is 20 and 20 in the X and Z axis. And with the width and height parameters, we can change the width and the height, okay? So in this case, I'm going to blow up the number of segments to 30 and then rotate the plane 90 degrees. What now? Well, suppose we want this piece of cloth to collide with an object or the floor. To do so, we need to insert another plane for the floor, okay? So set the number of segments to 1 in both cases and make it bigger. It will be the floor where the cloth will collide with. And here we got the cloth and the floor. Make these two objects editable by pressing C or clicking on this button over here, okay? Now go to the top panel and name the elements: cloth and floor. Okay, now right-click on the floor element, go to Simulation Tags and select Cloth Collider. By doing this, we are telling the software that the cloth will collide with the floor. Now right-click on the cloth Simulation Tags and select Cloth. With just few steps, we made the cloth collide with the floor. Okay, so hit play. See what happens. Obviously, this animation can be improved. So select the cloth and click on Subdivision Surface. See? Now the definition is higher and it seems more real. On the bottom right panel, you'll find many different properties that can be modified to get the desired definition. We'll do an exercise where we'll play around with all these parameters, okay? So, we got to simulate the cloth collision in 2 simple steps. Obviously, it's a quite simple scene, and we could make more complex things, depending on what we want to get. Here, for instance, I've simulated the curtains movement. As you can appreciate, I selected the superior polygons and it's where the curtains hang down. Okay? Obviously, these are the vertices. We can create curtains, a sail, or anything that comes to our minds. Apart from this, well, let's remove the plane for a moment and insert it again. Perfect. Go to Primitives and create a plane. Increase the number of segments to 50 and rotate it 90 degrees. Also make this plane bigger in the y-axis. Like that. Make it editable and select the vertices. But first, right-click on the plane object and Simulation Tag, select the Cloth tag. Perfect. Go to the bottom right panel and there you find the Tag Properties panel with different options. So, we want to select the superior edges in this case, or those you want to use as anchor points. So, use the Edge mode and select the superior edges. These should appear in orange. Then go to the Dresser tab and click on Set in the Fixed Points option. Right after doing that, orange turned to purple. This way we're telling the software to hold the cloth on those edges. Hit play and you'll see the cloth doesn't fall. See? Well, let's imagine we want the curtains to move because of the wind, okay? So first, add a material to the curtains so it looks nice. And as I was saying, let's complicate things. Within the Cloth Properties panel, we find the Forces tab. There are a series of properties we can use to simulate different situations. So increase the number of keyframes, like 1000 or 500, as you prefer, and move this slider to the right to select all the frames. Hit play and see what happens. So guys, this is the result, okay? Also, bear in mind that the higher the number of polygons is, the slower the simulation will run. So pay attention to it. Go now to the Cloth tag and have a look at the different options. This is the gravity option, which indicates the virtual gravity affecting the object. If we change it to 10 and hit play, the gravity is different and thus affects the object and the curtains float. See? We can also insert a negative value like -50. See? Now the attraction force acts from the bottom. Then regarding the drag parameter, it slows down the animation, so to speak. So if we modify the gravity, it would affect the entire scene. However, the drag only acts on a specific area. See? It's a sort of animation in a slow motion. So I inserted a really high value so you can appreciate how this parameter works. But when working with it, use low values, okay? It can be clearly appreciated after activating the wind force. Check it out. There are 3 parameters connected to the wind direction. Wind direction in the x-axis, in the y, and the z. And then the wind strength. Right now it's a 0, so nothing happens. Let's set the wind direction set at 5 and the wind strength at 3. See? The cloth moves according to the wind direction and strength we just set. This time, it's oriented towards the z-axis. If we increase drag to 5, the simulation is much slower. So reduce it a little bit. Okay, now it's like a soft breeze, right? That's why it's better to use low values for the drag parameter. There are also other aspects, such as the wind turbulence, strength, or speed. You can leave here the default values since they act more specifically. But obviously, try them out, okay? I reduce the wind direction and strength. Now, if I considerably increase the turbulence, the software goes nuts. So be careful with this, okay, guys? The turbulence is connected to the wrinkles or waves on the cloth when hit by the wind, okay? Regarding the rest of parameters such as the wind drag or the wind impact, We'll leave the default value since these are specific parameters that you can experiment on your own, okay? Guys, this I'm gonna tell you now, it's very important. See? The polygons sometimes overlap. This is called clipping. And most of the times we can't do anything to fix it. However, there is an option here, the self-repulsion one, to prevent this from happening. Although it's sometimes just unavoidable, okay? So don't worry too much. So let's hit play. The simulation is slower now, but the software tries to correct the polygons problem. So we can modify some parameters to enhance the simulation. For example, the distance option, instead of 10, set it to 2. This way, whenever the distance is smaller than 2, the polygons won't overlap. There is a safety margin of 2 seconds. So, with these parameters, we can avoid stuff like this, depending on our project's needs and bearing in mind that this will slow down the simulation, okay? Well, after activating self-repulsion, the simulation runs slower, but it's acceptable. Set now drag to 1 or 0.5 and wait to see what happens. Guys, you can play around with all these parameters and try them to check how they work. The more parameters we control, the better. Okay? We can also work with different cloth shapes. For example, this flag. In this case, we made something similar. So, it's quite simple. Just insert a plane. Okay, go to primitives and plane. And set the number of polygons to 1 in both cases. Then rotate it 90 degrees and move it to the top right. Now we're going to make the plane editable with C or pressing this button. First of all, select the inferior edges to scale it down. And then select the edges of the right. Then right-click and go to Weld. After that, a little white point will appear in the middle. Click on it and the 2 edges will merge in a single one, creating a triangle. Perfect. Now go to Mesh, Commands, and Subdivide. This window will open and there you can set the number of subdivisions. So we are going to set it to 4 and then hit OK. Now you can see this mesh, which will ease the simulation a lot, okay? So select the plane object and select the cloth tag. Then go to the bottom panel and select Dresser tab. Select the edges on the left of the plane to indicate the software where we want to hold the cloth to the pole, okay? Thus, select all these edges and hold down Shift to select multiple objects. After that, click on Set in the Fix Points option. As you can see, the points turned to purple and indicate that the cloth is fixed to the pole. Hit play and you see the simulation works well. There are very few subdivisions though, so we need to increase the number. To solve this, we'll insert a subdivision surface. So select the cloth and go to Subdivision Surface at the top menu. Hold down Alt while pressing Subdivision Surface. By pressing Alt, we got the elements properly arranged. As you can see, that this new mesh has been inserted. Now go to Subdivision Surface Properties panel and select Open Subdiv Loop from the pop-up menu and type. Okay, so we got this new mesh, which is well defined and will be of great help for simulating the cloth. So hit play, and the simulation's been improved. Now we are going to add wind to the scene, and then activate the self-repulsion option. So, guys, for the wind direction and strength, you can use the same values as I inserted, or try new values. Check the self-repulsion box to prevent the polygons from overlapping. Set distance to a considerably low value, like 2 or 3, depending on the case. Let's add a material to the flag so it looks nicer. Perfect. Guys, let's say we want to add some width to the cloth and freeze the movement. Let's say we want it in this position. So guys, in the following exercise, I'm going to show you how to do all this stuff, okay? So this one. Here we have a sphere and a cloth. This item is covering the sphere and has the same shape. I froze this position and the cloth is now completely static. I also made the cloth thicker. This is just an example, but you can apply it to any other situation. For example, the cloth can cover the letter or a face and reproduce those objects' shape. But this is just an example, okay? Well, to do so, let's remove this cloth, leaving only the sphere, okay? So, first of all, make it editable and make visible the edges, okay? Then go to the object and add a cloth collider tag, okay? Then insert the plane for the cloth, which is quite simple in this case. Set segments to 50. And then make the plane editable and insert a cloth tag in this case. Perfect. If we hit play now, it will simulate the cloth falling on the sphere, see? It even slides completely. So what I'm going to do now is increase the cloth's definition by inserting a subdivision surface. Next, go to the cloth tag properties panel and play around with the parameters depending on your needs, okay? In this case, activate the drag to slow down the animation and reduce the strength to 5%. Check the self-repulsion box and set distance to 3, for instance. This is just a text. You may need to do various texts to check it out first. This time the cloth moves slowly and some wrinkles are created, which means the definition is higher. Now set drag to 5 and distance to 5 as well, which was the default value, okay? Then hit play. Okay, let's imagine we want to save this simulation to keep the animation when moving the slider forward and backward. So this can be easily done by calculating the animation cache. So to do so, go to the cloth object and click and the cache tab, okay? There you can set the cache of all the frames of the animation. This way we can easily visualize the animation. However, bear in mind that a high number of keyframes slows down the animation, so you may want to reduce it. So go to the Cache tab and click on Calculate Cache. It will save the information from keyframe 0 to the last one. Okay, wait until the calculation finishes. It will vary depending on the keyframes, okay? Once it finishes, you'll be able to see the entire animation and even select a specific keyframe with the slider. Remember that you'll have to delete this animation if you want to visualize a new one. You can delete it directly from this menu, okay? Great. So now if we move the slider, we can see the animation at a specific keyframe. This is great when working with projects since we can see the final result beforehand, and it's great. Okay, in order to save a particular position, go to the Objects list, delete the tag of the plane, and that position will be saved. Remove the rest of elements from the list to keep only the cloth. Remember that the subdivision surface can be enabled anytime. However, this will affect the polygon's definition. See, go to the Funk Angle option within the tag properties and set it to its maximum to prevent this from happening. What is this option for? Well, if you modify the value, you'll see the definition changes. However, with the subdivision surface activated, it won't be a problem. Let's make this cloth thicker. To do so, activate the plane, go to Simulation, Cloth and Cloth Surface. Now move the cloth surface object inside the subdivision surface and at the same time the plane inside the cloth surface. Guys, this is the correct order, okay? Well, select the cloth surface element. We can tweak the number of subdivisions within the object properties. However, I recommend you to leave it at 0 since many subdivisions may collapse the software. The parameter that interests us the most is thickness. By increasing the thickness value, the cloth gets thicker. See? So you can use positive or negative values. And this is basically how we can add thickness to the cloth. As I said before, we can increase the subdivision from here, but I leave it at 0 since too many subdivisions aren't a good idea. So don't touch anything and work on the subdivision directly with the subdivision surface element, because it offers many more options. So we can alter the subdivisions within the cloth surface, but the result won't be great. So it's better if you work with the subdivision surface properties. And there, you'll find different possibilities, such as the open subdiv loop, for example, and the definition is much higher because the mesh generated in this case is much better, okay? So guys, can you imagine how many things we can do with cloth simulations? It's great. As I said, this cloth could fall on a letter or on a face, imitating those shapes. And well, I really hope that you liked it. You can practice and play around with different options and possibilities to create your own scenes. So again, I hope that you like it and see you in the next tutorial. Bye!